All right, I want to welcome everyone to Hot Off the Press. It's the show about new releases and the authors that bring them to us. To start off, let's go ahead and go around the room and have everyone introduce yourself. Let's go ahead and start with you, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I write under R.E. Carr. I am the author of a couple urban fantasy series, including Rules Undying, and the False Icon series, which is part of the Tome of Bill universe, which I write with Mr. Rick Waltery.
All right, thank you. And let's move on over to Rick.
Hi, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and I write under Rick Gualtieri because I'm not smart enough to come up with a easy-to-spell pseudonym. I mostly write horror and horror comedy, and I have about 30 books out there, including the Tome of Bill series, the Crypto Hunter series, a couple other things, and I also write the False Icon series with Rachel.
All right, thank you. And Crymsyn.
I am Crymsyn Hart. I write urban fantasy, horror, dark fantasy, a lot of paranormal romance. I've been writing for a long time. And right now I'm home with the dogs and all the hair.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, Diana.
Hi, I'm Diana Peterfreund. I have written, I think, over a dozen books now, mostly young adult and middle grade novels, so for kids, including a series about killer unicorns, for Darkness Shows the Stars, the Omega City series. I also write a lot of short stories. My horror story, Playscape, is out in the Best Horror of the Year anthology this fall, and I'm currently doing a mystery series for young adults based on the board game Clue.
All right, great. And now, before we get into individual books, let's talk about the journey to becoming a published author. So we'll start with you, Rick. How did it happen for you for those 30 books?
It was a bucket list item. First, I put out a collection of stories that I had written in college. Then I decided to take my chance at putting together a novel, firmly expecting the universe would throw it back in my face and say, "This sucks," and that didn't happen. Well, so it has several times, but not in bulk enough to discourage me.
Okay. And when did you start writing?
I mean, back in college, but I've been doing this professionally for about 9 years.
Okay, great. And how about you, Crymsyn?
I started writing in high school and through college. I actually majored in creative writing. I went to Emerson College in Boston, so I always wanted to be a writer. I ended up writing something and just kind of throwing it out when ebooks were like the new and up and coming thing, and got accepted by a small independent press, and it kind of took off from there. And it was mostly just romance for a while, and then here and there I've done some dark fantasy and horror. And so I've kind of over the years just been moving on to small presses and everything.
So what made you switch around on the genres?
Well, I've always had an interest in horror and more of the darker stuff anyways, so that's kind of, even though it's paranormal romance, a lot of the darker stuff ends up in the romance novels. So the first thing I actually wrote was a horror series that got classified as romance. That's really not. So if you look at the cover, it's all like beefcake, but it's really not. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
All right, great.
Marketing is such a it's such a funny beast, because you write this one thing and they're like, well, yeah, but we're gonna call it this other thing because like that's doing really well right now. Or,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
No.
All right, Diana, how about you?
So I always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't think that was a thing that people did for their full-time job. So it's kind of crazy that I've been doing this for about 15 years now. But I sold my first book in 2005 to Random House, and that was the Secret Society Girl series, which is, well, at the time I think they called it a chick lit novel, and nowadays they probably would have called it a new adult novel, because it was about a girl in college who joined a secret society and sort of had adventures. But I I've written also in a lot of genres because I read in a lot of genres, and I've never really understood the idea of just staying in one genre and only doing one kind of story.
All right. Rachel?
Oh, well, I wrote my first chapter book when I was 8 years old. It did not get published, but I tried. I have my rejection letter from when I was 16 too. Then life happened and I decided, oh, I'm gonna, I got my degree in creative writing, much like some of the people did, and I went into accounting because I needed to eat. I finally said I'm gonna give up, get my accounting degree, but I'll write one more novel. I wasn't expecting it to be selected by the Kindle Scout program, but there it is. I kind of even forgot to name it, so it was just novel number 4, and thus 4 made it to the Amazon bestseller list, and I've been going ever since. And I even convinced Mr. Waltery there that I could write in his universe, because why not ask at this point?
And so is that how you guys ended up co-writing?
Oh, yes. I put together a really nice proposal and I wrote it all up and I did this really in-depth 28-page outline. What do you think about that, Rick?
I'll let you know if I ever read it. see, Rachel had written me a letter when she had published 4, and I read 4, and then I read her next book 6. Mind you, 5 comes after 4, but
don't even. If you read, you've read the books, you know the numbers mean things.
But the thing was, I knew Rachel could write. So when she came to me and was like, "Hey, I have an idea for this," I was just like, "Okay, let's go for it." And then she sent me this outline. It was really long, and I was like, "It's an outline, and it's really long, and I'm kind of busy. Like, I'll trust her to do the right thing."
I didn't read it. I just thought it was that good, and that's how I got it. I find this out later.
All right, great. So let's go ahead and get into the book. Tell us a little about the book and the idea or seed that started it, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Crymsyn.
My book, Forest of Bones, is about a hybrid vampire magician, and she's the only one of her kind. It's set in a dark fantasy world, so sword and sorcery, and she is trying to find out what is going on with the humans in her world, and the magic is kind of going bad, and she finds out that she's actually spun off from a demon line, and so you kind of have to figure out you find out how vampires really started, because they're different than what the normal vampire is in our world. And the Forest of Bones is back in the day, the king that actually created the vampires, the magic went crazy, so it sucked all the life out of the trees and turned them into bone.
Cool.
That is kind of awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of kind of like wild magic running around, and since vampires can't actually do magic, she was created through a spell that ended up kind of creating her, and her mother ended up, who was the vampire, and her father was the magician. Her mother ended up having to drink blood and suck out the souls of her victims while she carried her. So I ended up coming up with the idea for the book. I was finishing one of Nancy Kilpatrick's books, and kind of the idea struck me of a different type of vampire and wanting to create something that we don't see in vampire lore. So that's how I came up with that.
Weird vampires are the best. Trust me.
Yeah,
I'm with
sparkle. You. Yeah.
Oh, I've made them sparkle, but only through horrible gifts.
All right, Diana.
Oh, yeah, so my book is not about vampires. So In the Hall with the Knife is, like I said, it's a YA mystery based on the board game Clue. And I was hired to write it by my publisher, Abrams, who had a license with Hasbro.
We lost the audio there.
Oh.
There you go. Okay.
So I was hired to write the book by my publisher Abrams, who in collaboration with Hasbro, who owns the book. And basically, when my agent called me and said, you know, you have this audition to write YA mysteries based on the board game Clue, I was like, I was born for this job.
Awesome.
I, you know, basically memorized the Tim Curry movie. You know, I played Clue all the time when I was a kid. I was like, you don't understand how much I want to do this. And I wrote the audition and I really feel like I killed it. And then I got the job and I was so excited to kind of play in that sandbox and make my own creation, my own like Colonel Mustard. It's like a kid who's been in military school, and like Miss Scarlet, it's kind of like the class mean girl, and you know, just on and on and on, and to create these own characters. And sort of the idea that I came to it with was that I wanted to give Clue the Riverdale treatment. You know, I wanted to take this kind of old-fashioned property and just get really, really campy and bring it into the 21st century and, you know, tell this mystery story. And, you know, that's what Hasbro wanted to, and that's what Abrams wanted to. So we got to make this like really interesting sort of, it's a trilogy of mysteries. So every mystery stands on its own. In the Hall with the Knife is like its own mystery story with a murder and a solution at the end. And then there's sort of this overarching mystery that's going to go over all three books. And you know, it's been such a blast to write. I've had so much fun writing these books. Like I don't know if it's because, you know, I knew that I was talking to other Clue fans, and you know, just the response since the book has come out, you know, of people who love the game or people who love the movies, finding all the lines from the movie that I kind of like snuck in like Easter eggs into the book. It's just been a complete blast.
So how is it different working on a tie-in property as opposed to your own intellectual work?
Well, they own everything, right? So, I mean, I think if you talk to any tie-in writer, like the big thing is that you have to have a lot of respect for the license holder, because they are the ones that sort of make the final decisions. But I will say, I think that, you know, the vision that I have has not been stepped on in any way. You know, that we had an agreement, you know, like of what we wanted to do with the story. And, you know, they let me, you know, make the characters really diverse, and they let me, you know, make everything very modern, and it's been really fun. But yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, it's trying to honor the property that exists and all the fans that are already out there. And also, like, you know, from their perspective, they don't want to step on sort of my creativity. So it's a collaboration.
Great. All right, Rachel, how about you in this book that you guys wrote?
Well, it is similar because once more, I'm the one playing in somebody else's sandbox, only I'm very sarcastic to the owner of said sandbox. I just, all I can say is at one point I remember asking, because I had a list of all the things I thought I could get away with, and a couple things that I was pretty sure I couldn't get away with, but I'd ask them anyway, and just as the hope. And I remember asking, can I have a Greek god? And can he look like John Hamm? To this day, I don't think Rick knows who John Hamm is.
Yeah, she asked me that, and I was like, "Yeah, go for it." I have no idea who John Hamm is.
But yeah, like, you said yes, okay. Didn't think I'd get that one. Whew, that made it a lot easier. But it is a bit of a dance. I will say that Rick has been wonderful in that my creativity has not been stifled, even if my many words have been cut out, because I love adverbs. I love lots of adverbs and lots of character scenes, and he loves to cut them out with a knife. But yeah, we started this series last year with Second String Saver, and it was kind of trying to meld superheroes, or at least people who love superheroes and geeks and fandom, into a geeky vampire horror universe. And now we're on book 2, which is Wannabe Wizard, where a boy discovers a lot about himself and why his magic really sucks.
All right, Rick, you want to take it from there?
Well, I mean, pretty much what Rachel said. We kind of do a back and forth with this. She does the first draft, and I think with Wannabe Wizard, I did 2 rewrites.
I did a
And
rewrite in between them.
yeah,
There were 2.
yeah. And the goal there is, you know, this is not a collaboration where like, okay, you know, I just answer a few questions and like, you know, and then stamp my name on it. The whole thing is it ends up being a collaboration. I think we both pretty much do about the equal amount of work. So the idea there is the final product melds our 2 voices, because the ultimate goal is when you're reading this, you don't want to be like, okay, this person wrote this person wrote this, it changes tone. So we go back and forth this many times so that it winds up being a unified voice. But I mean, really, what it winds up being is this world I created for my Tome of Bill series. I realized there's a lot more stories in it than about the main character, and this is kind of a story that happens parallel to that, which kind of intersects here and there, but kind of happens just right outside the scenes of the other series.
We love throwing Easter eggs back and forth, though, to each other's works.
And cameos. Cameos are cool,
Oh,
too.
cameos. All the cameos.
All right. So tell us a little about your writing routine. And we'll start with you, Diana.
Well, in these unprecedented times, I can't say that I've had much of a writing routine. I have 2 young children, and they have been home with me in these unprecedented times. And I also recently, moved. So it's been this year has been pretty hairy. But usually when I'm under deadline and the kids are off at school and stuff, I sit down and I try to make myself do, a couple thousand words a day until it's done. And yeah, I have unfortunately not been able to do that. So I'm a little bit behind. I'm currently working on the outline for the 3rd book in the trilogy, which has the added challenge of being like the end of the trilogy, right? So you have to pull everything together and it has to be awesome. And we have these like really crazy plans for what's going to happen. And I have to do it while I've got like kids climbing all over me. So, yeah, I'm a little behind, to be perfectly honest. I mean, something's going to have to give, right? In these unprecedented times. So, because I am really excited about this book, and I've been, lining up the dominoes for 2 books now, because In the Study with the Wrench, which is the 2nd book, comes out in October. And so that's all finished, like the arcs are out and things like that. So I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's just kind of like, I haven't been able to work on it. Like I haven't been able to get my head there. So I was like, oh, I'll write a short story or something to kind of just a palate cleanser. And that hasn't happened either. Like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be this honest, but I've not been writing.
This is for all the writers out there. So we take the good, the bad, all of it.
Oh, we have the ugly over here. Don't worry.
Are you more of a plotter or a pantser? Or...
Oh, I'm an extreme plotter. I use this program called Scrivener, which I mean, honestly, I should have named my like firstborn Scrivener, or like build a shrine in my room and stuff. I adore Scrivener so much. And one of the things that's great about it is I can put like all of the books in a single project. So if I just need to go back and look at something really quick, I can. Because the clue books are told from 6 POVs, like mustard, scarlet, green, plum, peacock, and orchid, like I can go back in and just really quickly see what they were thinking at any particular time, because obviously different characters are going to have their own perspectives on things that may or may not be entirely accurate. I color code all of their perspectives, so it's just like this really easy visual when I'm looking at the whole thing. Scrivener is my life. I've been writing books on it since 2007, and there are definitely some books that I've written that I don't know if I could have written without Scrivener, like things with multiple timelines and stuff, just keeping that kind of Miss Carr, you look so disturbed.
I want multiple timelines with post-it notes and drinking. I just feel so inadequate.
Yeah. I mean, Scrivener really keeps everything organized. I mean, honestly, I don't know if they want to sponsor this cast at this point, because this is just going to be an advertisement for Scrivener.
Right. And how about your?
And I have to do it, especially for when you're doing a licensed book. You have to have approvals at every stage. Like you're making a movie, and you had to turn in storyboards before they gave you whatever money it was for the special effects. Like it's kind of like that. So.
All right. Rachel?
Oh, God. I just completely pantsed a 144,000 word novel that I finished today. I didn't even know sometimes what was happening when I sat down. I'm like Netflix. Nothing. Oh, there was a 14,000 word day. I forgot to eat, shower, or speak to my offspring. And then, I'm a lump doing things. I mean, in these unprecedented times, I am at home with 2 kids, a cat, a husband, a full-time day job, a co-writer who doesn't look at my stuff. I don't know. At first I was like trying really hard, like maybe I should be extra organized. And then one day, I don't know what happened. I threw everything out the window. I threw out 30 plus pages of outlines and notes. Decided I'm not going to do any of it. Sorry, Rick, you didn't read it anyway. And that's what I do. I mean, I am Captain Chaos, and I just want to know that there's more than one way to do it. It's not always a good way. Like, please do not try this at home. I have to say that. I really have had to be physically restrained from my laptop, told that I had to eat, begged to shower, and it's not pretty. So yeah, I'm kind of in all, like, don't say it, because in my day job, I'm an accountant and I'm incredibly organized and have to do audits and all that. And then I just flip a switch, and yeah, I have karaoke battles in my head with my characters. So. You're sorry if I horrify anybody.
All right.
No, I mean, it sounds like you need, you need that right brain action, right? Like after being an accountant.
Well, I am a lefty, so I'm always in my right mind.
That sort of explosion.
Oh, that's a good word for it.
All right, Rick.
Well, I mean, plotting or pantsing really depends on what I'm working on. If I'm working on comedy, I prefer to pants because I find that's like spontaneously funnier. But I'm like 98,000 words into a horror novel right now, the 3rd book in my Crypto Hunter series, and I can't write that without a roadmap, because there's too many moving parts. And one thing that drives me nuts with with horror movies is the off-screen teleportation of the bad guy. So for every scene, I know where the heroes are and I know where the monsters are, and that kind of keeps me sane. But I'm pretty much a creature of habit. I mean, right now, same thing. Kids are at home. They're doing summer school. The main thing is to get them through that. My wife and I kind of split the duties, and I've kind of throttled myself just because we're we're going through kind of these weird times, and I know if I push myself too hard, especially because I've had some personal stuff going on, I know I'm probably gonna just burn out. So I've been kind of pacing myself with this novel. So it's kind of like rather than beating myself by saying, well, I wanted 5,000 today, I only got 3,000. Instead, it's kind of like, you got words down, dude. You're golden.
You are so much healthier than me. I started the book after you started yours, and I finished mine first, and I'm not really thinking this is a good thing.
Plenty of time to work on the second draft.
So do you prefer morning, evening, middle of the night?
I 100%, I'm a morning person. So my best writing days are like when I'm there in front of the computer. a lot depends. I mean, because getting the kids ready for their classes. So pretty much before 9 is mostly devoted to like getting breakfast and stuff. But I'm best when I'm sitting behind my computer by 9, and if by 10 I've gotten a few words started, it's going to be a good writing day.
All right, great. And Crymsyn.
I write when I can. I also, like Rachel, I have a day job. I work in commercial insurance, so at any given time, I'm getting a phone call from a client, or we have to talk about audits.
Sorry, we're evil.
No, it's fine. I never thought getting a job, in insurance, I'd have to be, a lawyer and an accountant and, and a few other things here and there too, a counselor. So between that and dealing with the dogs, since I have no kids, we have 2 puppies, and they're pretty much running my life as I'm petting one right now because she wants attention. I write when I can. I pretty much am a pantser. I just write and see what comes out, but I do plot here and there. The current horror novel I'm working on, I kind of have to plot and figure out where I'm going with it because it's a little bit here and there. But the romance stuff, I just pretty much write because in the end, they're going to be with each other, and it's in between how many times they, get together and have fun. So.
All right. So Diana, what in this book, what surprised you the most during the writing of it?
Well, I've never written a book with so many POVs in it before, and I just started falling in love with these sociopathic characters. Like, the more sociopathic, the better. And I think because I've spent so long in YA, which most of my books have been from a singular first-person perspective, and so I was telling the heroine's story, right? And I had never written these sociopathic murderers before, and I just loved them. Like, I loved writing these characters who were just vain or petty or liars, and it was really, really fun. And so I think the biggest thing is, as I've gone along in the series, is not wanting to pull back on their villainy as much, like not wanting to take their teeth out, because I fell in love with them. So I don't want to soften them, as I'm going on. I just want to make them all sort of like as capable of the terrible things that they
Writing awful people is the best.
Yeah, and I've written awful people before, but I haven't been like in their heads. And I think that's one of the reasons it's just been so fun to write these books. And also, the other thing I learned is that writing in a lot of POVs means that the stories are like short. So if I write a 60,000 word book from 6 POVs, I'm really writing 6 10,000 word short stories about each of them. And so the pacing is so fast because you just don't get a lot of time to get their perspective out. I'm used to writing these like languid YA stories where you're just like in this girl's head, for chapter after chapter after chapter, and you get every single thing she thinks about everything. And so, I love writing short stories on the side as a hobby. And, I think sort of in a different time period when I could have made a living writing short stories, like F. Scott Fitzgerald always got paid more for his short stories than his novels, right? So like if I lived in a time period where short stories were more of a viable business plan, I probably would have just done that because I love writing short stories so much. So I think I'm going to write a lot more things from a lot more POVs.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are we going to have a novel coming from you that's from the villain's point of view now?
Well, I am toying around with one that's like about a con artist. So like little bit.
All right, great. Crymsyn, how about you?
I'm sorry, you got to repeat the question.
What surprised you the most while writing this book?
Yeah. I think what surprised me the most really is just getting further into like the the mythology of the vampire and the world, and kind of like what Rick and Rachel were saying, is that there are other stories to be told in the universe, and the main character is pretty much, you know, like the central point of, you know, all of their species. So now I really just want to explore and write kind of like the offshoots of what's happening with, you know, some of the other vampires, or what happens after, you know. So
Great. Rick?
Well, I think that what was most surprising about Wannabe Wizard is Rachel and I started talking at, like, you know, we talk every day.
Every
You know,
day.
yeah, every day in the middle of this, and one of our conversations just kind of went off the rails, and we realized that the ending that was planned for this, there was another alternate ending that was one, both I think better, but also almost guaranteed to just like kind of like have people taking their Kindles and throwing it across the room, and be like, I can't believe you did that, sons of, you know.
The Dare to Suck meeting, I knew it was going to come up.
Yeah, and we talked about this, and Rachel was like, people are going to hate us if we do this, and it was like, you know something, sometimes hate is a good thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we completely and utterly, what was it, like 30,000 words or something?
Yep, the yeeting,
Yes.
as it is known, the
Yeah.
yeeting.
Yeah, a whole bunch went out, and the entire ending was rewritten. But I think it's
It's something.
it's no, I think it's a lot more awesome
Yeah.
ending. But you know, we'll see if we'll see what people say. If we do get a few thrown Kindles because of it, I'll be okay with that.
So is it truer to the character, the universe? Is that why you swapped it out?
You know, I think,
or was it just to be, you know, to mess with people?
I think it's more, it's partially to mess with people, but also it's kind of like, it takes it. The idea was, people are going to expect one thing; they are not going to expect this.
Yeah. And especially when you're writing a story where a central core is destiny, the most subversive and interesting thing you can do is very clearly outline a destiny and then have somebody forget to do it. And then you finally see what happens. If Harry Potter said, screw you guys, I'm going to Las Vegas and becoming a dealer. Deal with your own crap. And I mean, who knows? It's not that. It's nothing like that. But it is that kind of, what happens when you
Spoilers.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Rachel? What surprised you the most?
He totally stole my ending. I mean, it was like, there's a whole theory that there's a type of meeting that you can have, which is Dare to Suck, where instead of throwing out your good ideas, you throw out your absolute worst ideas. Because every once in a while, a really, really bad idea is actually brilliant. I mean, somebody once sat in a room and said, let's have a tornado full of sharks. And it works. It works because every once in a while, life is ridiculous. And if you just do something ridiculous, sometimes you get something bloody brilliant. And it was surprising, just that, you know, we get so invested in the things we create that sometimes just you don't want to throw them out, like, but you sometimes have to check the baby with the bathwater to get a better baby. Yeah, which you can only do in writing. Only.
I agree, Rachel. You have to go there sometimes. And I think, you know, when you've been doing this for a while, you get scared sometimes because you might get reader pushback, or it doesn't hit to market, or, you know, you get bad reviews, and it might scare you off, like, from being weird, or from really from going there. And
oh, I've gone there. I've gone all the there.
So it is nice to sometimes get that big reminder of why it's important to swing big.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
So, Crymsyn, what do you hope people take away from reading the book? And it doesn't have to be a big, you know, change their life. What do you hope they get out of the book? You know, it could be a character, could be anything.
Honestly, I hope they just enjoy it. That's really what writing is about. for me is that I want people to enjoy what I write, and just to kind of share my, crazy imagination with the world. Even if, one person reads it or, 100, that'd be great. It's just nice to have people say, hey, I liked your book, and, and ask me about it, really.
Rick?
It's all about escape. And this year, let's be honest, kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And something, if I can give somebody a couple of hours to get away from the suck, maybe into a different kind of suck, I don't know, but if I can give them a couple of hours to that, then it's all worth it.
All right, Rachel.
Yeah, I want people to take away, I mean, there's chaos, there's craziness, but sometimes, you just need to read a novel that has at one point a plot point about toast, because sometimes toast is what you need, and that's okay.
All right, Diana.
It's been very fun, hearing from readers who were like, oh, after I read your book, we went and watched the movie, or we went and pulled down our old copy of Clue from the top of the closet and played it and stuff. So, to really get that nostalgia feeling from readers and to introduce them to the game and stuff, it has been a lot of fun. It is interesting, though, because like the movie and then a lot of the games, the old copies that people have in their closet, the characters are Mrs. White, whereas like the new versions of the games for I think the past 7 years, the characters have been Scarlet, Peacock, Plum, Green, and Mustard and Orchid. And so in my book, one of the POV characters is Orchid. So people have written me and like, did you invent that character? And I'm like, no, I didn't invent Orchid, but I also put Mrs. White in because I had to, like how could I cut her out? So
I do want to thank everyone for talking to me and for coming to watch the show. Before we leave, though, let's go around and let people know where to find you. So I'll start with you, Rick.
Well, you can find me at rickgualtieri.com, which I'm not going to try to spell. Something, if you Google Bill the Vampire, you'll find me.
That's how I did it.
All right, Rachel.
I can be found at the much easier to spell www.rachelecarr with 2 R's.com, and also on Amazon.
All right, great. Diana?
DianaPeterfreund.com. I think at this point, any misspelling is still going to get you to me, according to Google. So good luck with that.
Right. And finally, Crymsyn.
You can find me at CrymsynHart.com. Crymsyn is actually Crymsyn, so I gotta spell it. Sorry.
That is so like start of like the invention of ebooks type of pen name. Like I love it. It's very of the moment.
Yeah, it was either the pen name I had was taken, so it was trying to find something that went with my last name. And so Crymsyn kind of went with either romance or horror, so I've just kept it through the years. But yeah,
it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's Crymsyn Hart at pretty much everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Amazon. Yeah.
All right. Again, thanks everyone for coming, and see you next time.
Thanks
Bye.
for having us.
Bye. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.